PharmaPhobic is powered by Achieve the Lifestyle, a company dedicated to helping you empower your health, redefine your lifestyle, and all for the health of it. You're listening to PharmaPhobic, where we challenge the state of health in America. I'm Janie, a physician assistant, and I've seen how healthcare keeps people dependent instead of truly healthy.
And I'm Dan, a veteran turned fitness pro here to uncover the truth and explore simple and sustainable health solutions. From big pharma to big food, we're exposing the conflicts of interest keeping us sick and finding better ways to take back our health.
No fluff, no gimmicks, just real talk, real solutions, and a little bit of fun along the way.
Hello there. Welcome to another episode of PharmaPhobic, brought to you by Achieve the Lifestyle, where we help you become the strongest, healthiest, and most capable version of yourself. As always, guys, we have a special guest in studio
call me a
today.
special guest one more time.
Co-host of the podcast. Love of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Makes my life so serene and peaceful. Miss Janie Brown, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you? Yeah.
Getting better at those. I want to make them super awkward for you.
You're doing great.
Well, we're back in studio, guys. It's been a couple weeks. We've been around. Producers, Janine, you've been around too. Traveling, enjoying ourselves, spring break, all that stuff. But today, we got some serious business to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
And before I start, because I got a plethora and a barrage of notes on this, I want to kind of set the tone here, because this podcast is meant to help people, right?
Yes.
Like our ultimate goal here, our guiding light in this podcast is to help you become stronger, healthier, and more capable, right? So we want to advise you in the ways that we can. We want to point things out to you that could be working against your health. And then we want to give you solutions to whatever challenges you're facing in your health journey.
Yeah, awareness precedes change.
Correct. But to do that, to better do that, we have to really become aware of just what's out there. And I think today's episode is one of those episodes where I'm going to grab you by the shoulders and feed you with the fire hose. And then I'm going to smack you around a little bit and be like, yo, this is why you got to be on your P's and Q's when it comes to this health stuff, right?
Yeah. Why do they say P's and Q's?
I have no idea. Dotting I's and crossing T's. I don't know. Somebody just likes the alphabet.
I get the dotting I's and crossing T's, but mind your P's and Q's. Maybe because they're easy to mix up, but then why not mind your B's and D's, lowercase?
Good question.
Anyway, sorry.
You could start that. You know what? Go ahead and run with that. You heard it here first, guys.
You mind your B's and D's.
Yep. Mind your B's and D's. Lowercase B's and D's.
Anyway, but what we're trying to say is that anytime we bring awareness, sometimes it can be heavy, daunting, but it is all with the goal for you to then change course to become healthier and more knowledgeable.
Yeah.
It gets a little uncomfortable because it is true. Ignorance is bliss. Dumb and happy is a thing, right? But we don't want to be dumb. We don't want to be ignorant.
And you won't be dumb and happy because you're going to be dumb and sick. That's the whole thing.
But then you got happy pills.
And you get sicker. Mm-hmm. And then you need more happy pills. So you see what we're getting at here. I think the whole thing here is that we want, you expose the acts of darkness, right? That's Bible right there. Mm-hmm. You're called to exposing darkness. But you don't dwell on it, right? This isn't for you to be afraid of oh my God, what am I going to do? No. You be like, oh, I'm aware of this, but my focus is on taking care of myself.
Yep.
My focus is on improving my quality of life. My focus is on improving my health. I can see the stumbling blocks. I can see the things that are working against me. I know them well, but my focus and my energy goes to what can I do about it, right?
Yes.
And it may seem like there's nothing you can do about it, but there's always something that you can do about it. That's what I want you to walk away with today.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to get into this. Let me put these old man filters on real quick so I can better see my barrage and plethora of notes. Okay, so recently, this is as of February, I believe this was happened. Defense Production Act, okay? What is it? So, and when this is gonna come into play, the Defense Production Act is basically a law that grants the president the ability to direct companies to prioritize government contracts and allocate resources to certain things, right? For the purposes of national defense, national security, and emergency management.
Okay.
So a good example, let's say you are a manufacturer of ammunition. Yeah, you see what I'm getting at?
You could say steel.
Steel.
You don't have to go right to bullets.
But yeah, bullets is a real one. Yeah, you're a manufacturer of ammunition. You know, under the Defense Production Act, your activities may be protected because they're vital to national security, right? Mm-hmm. And then, you know, they remove certain roadblocks for you so that you can operate more efficiently because national security.
Right.
Okay, so keep that in mind. Why do we care? Okay, February, President signed an executive order putting glyphosate-based and elemental phosphorus-based pesticides under the DPA. Okay, so they included glyphosate in the Defense Production Act, okay, as of February, citing food supply security as part of national security. Hey, listen, makes sense to me. We should be caring about our farms. We should be caring about our food production, because that is, if you are hungry, you ain't fighting nothing. Your country it's done. Nothing else matters if you is hungry, right? So, yeah, food supply is part of national security. Makes perfect sense.
Okay.
Now, under that order, it directs the USDA, everybody knows, Department of Agriculture, and the DoD, Department of Defense, to ensure no rules and regulations impede the flow of these pesticides.
Ooh.
Yeah. So here's the first bone that I have to pick right off the rip. And then we'll go into, because RFK commented on this, and his comment surprised many people. Last time I checked, there's plenty of people out there in the world that have farmed, are farming, and will farm without the use of glyphosate. So I'm not buying your assessment that glyphosate is extremely important to farming.
Well, I don't. Yes, that's true.
Just because we use it by the buttload.
But that's the problem. We use it by the buttload, so it's so entrenched that if you were to yank it out, that would cause an issue. It'd be like it's a critical Jenga piece, and now it just all fell down.
So it made it. These companies made glyphosate a critical Jenga piece of food production. That was part of RFK's comment. He's like, "Hey, this is essential to the way we farm right now, so we can't really mess with it." I don't believe you. Because what we're doing is creating a situation where these companies that make this stuff, or company, are not they won't have to innovate, right? They won't have to change their ways.
Right.
And we're going to get here to the gist of why they have to change their ways. Because you are guaranteeing what their product right now is being made even more essential to the way things are.
And grants them a little bit of immunity so they can...
That's where this conversation is going.
Unfortunately, you would think like, oh, they have immunity so they can just continue to prioritize what they're doing and for the better of everyone. But there are more than one instance where then people cut corners. They put things in to drive up their profit because they know there's no consequence to them if it caused ill effect by doing so.
Yeah.
So that's where we get into a little bit of trouble.
And the whole protection of liability, you're basically building a case to protect these companies from liability for their faulty product. There's one other product that comes to mind, I'll mention it here in a second, that has this sort of protection, right? Glyphosate has been proven by multiple studies to be cancerous, right? Very concerning, high likelihood of cancer risk. through multiple lawsuits, which I'll lay out here for you, a couple of them. And people were awarded money because they found that this chemical was directly causational to their cancer.
And RFK headed one of those lawsuits.
RFK headed one of the biggest one, really.
Yeah.
Now, put that aside. Let's go observational, right? Food allergies, colorectal cancers,
celiac disease, gluten
autoimmune disorders are on the rise.
Inflammatory bowel disease, IBS.
Crohn's, all this stuff. It's on the rise, like exponential rise in recent years, right? And
so much so it's trending on TikTok, like hot girls have IBS or something like that. Like,
and then cancer, it is, people are getting younger and younger. So the incidences of cancer are going up, and the age at which people are getting it are going lower. Now, I mean,
we can see that just by the screening recommendations for colonoscopies was 50, now it's 45.
So, and I think that's multifactorial. There's another factor at play here, my theory, and some people have already correlated this factor as well, but glyphosate is absolutely a part of this. And then there was this other study where they did urine samples and found that damn near 100% of people were peeing out glyphosate, right? So this is how pervasive and entrenched in what you consume this thing is, okay? So going off the cancerous stuff, you mentioned RFK being a part of one of the lawsuits. So there was a $289 million victory in California. This is 2018. Johnson versus Monsanto in California. That's the name of the case. Dwayne Lee Johnson is the name of the guy that, was the lead in this lawsuit. He was a school groundskeeper. And obviously, he sprayed Roundup every day of his life, being a landscaping type of guy, and he got non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, terminal, right? So they went after Monsanto for the Roundup, which was what they found to be this is the thing that gave you cancer, right? Mm-hmm. Think about this: $289 million settlement is not inconsequential. That's a big judgment against Monsanto. P.S. When I say Monsanto, it's now Bayer. Bayer acquired Monsanto in 2021, I believe, for $13 billion.
Yeah, we talked about it on here.
We've mentioned it, but I just want to make sure that we know, say Monsanto and Bayer, it's the same company now. Because Monsanto had too many things going against it. So I guess they honestly, it's kind of cheap for how powerful Monsanto is as a company to sell for $13 billion to Bayer. They make aspirin, baby. Bayer's good to go. You know what I'm saying? So now you could see the okey doke. It's more about getting that name out of the press.
Yep.
So it was determined during that case. This case is important because a lot of stuff came out. You start submitting discovery and all this other stuff, and they have to, you have to open the books. Email records were laid out from the internal emails from the company had to be submitted for the case, all this stuff during discovery. So, but during this, they determined that basically Monsanto had known since the 90s, keep in mind that the Roundup, the glyphosate has been in use probably since the 70s. They were testing it in the 60s, started using it in the 70s, and then this is where GMOs and all this sort of thing came from. We've discussed this on the podcast before, so I'm just hitting you with the wave tops, but if you have questions, DM us at Achieve the Lifestyle because it go down in the DM. Anyway, they've known since the 90s, based on their internal communications and their records and stuff that they had to submit for discovery, that this thing was causing issues in people. This is 2018 that we're talking about this. Mm-hmm. So, 20 plus years before, they already knew their product was a problem, right? Let that sit with you for a second. 20 plus years of knowing that you are spraying nonsense on people's food. Okay? Now, 2000, this case was in 2018. Back in 2000, Monsanto felt the need to have a study of their product, right? That study determined, hey, our stuff is safe, baby. Mm-hmm. It's good to go. That study was retracted in 2025, by the way. Okay? But here's the problem with that study. Think about it. 2000 it came out. 2025 it was finally retracted. For 25 years, Monsanto used this study and cited it over 1,300 times to get regulation and things passed in their favor with the EPA, right? So the EPA went ahead and said, hey, this glyphosate stuff's good to go. Look at the study they gave us.
Yeah.
Right? And this is the problem with a lot of these studies and stuff. You got to look at where it's coming from. Like we like science, but you got to put an asterisk because these people control this stuff, especially when the FDA, first of all, I haven't looked at the EPA budget, but I wouldn't be surprised if the EPA budget comes from the industry as well, right? Like the FDA. So when people, the FDA and the EPA, they have no testing power. They take the tests and the scientific research that is given to them by the people that want to submit a product for approval. Make sense? Yeah. So if I want to put out a supplement and I need to get an FDA approval, I'm going to give you my research that I did on my own supplement. The FDA isn't going to do an independent test.
That's not biased.
Oh, no, baby. Come on now. That's okay. That's fine. That's fine. Of course, I have no conflict of interest to, show you that my product's good to go, right? So, retracted study took 25 years, and I'll give you the reasons here in a second. But 1,300 times to grant all the permissions, get all the permission from the EPA for unobstructed use of glyphosate, right? Oh, my notebook fell apart. Oh, man. So here's what the retraction is based on, okay? Carcinogen and genotoxicity studies that were not included but were available. So there you have the one study that Monsanto did. There's 4 studies that test carcinogen and genotoxicity for glyphosate that basically came out, concluded that it was cancerous.
Yeah.
But Monsanto gave the one, that's the one we're going to use, baby. And they didn't cite or contest against the other 4 studies that were available.
And who did those 4 studies?
I didn't write the names down, but there were other, not Monsanto, it was other independent studies, right? Now, based on the emails that were submitted as part of the discovery of this $289 million case, it appears, and I like this language because it's one of those things that it's like, no, this is definitive, but for legalese, you gotta allegedly, supposedly, it appears, it looks like employees of Monsanto co-authored the study, to put it lightly. The word being thrown around is ghostwritten. Ghost wrote the study. Yeah. Like Drake, baby. Drake ain't spitting those bars himself. There's people writing the bars for Drake. So this is the thing. This study, somebody wrote the bars for the scientists, right? Obviously, that's a conflict of interest because the people from Monsanto that it looks like they ghost wrote the study, they weren't mentioned as co-authors. Yeah. And they didn't put their names on the study.
What's their paycheck going to look like if they say, oh, no, glyphosate is bad?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not only that, the other scientists that did sign the study, like they did it, they probably got paid from Monsanto.
Yep. For sure.
To put your name on this study, like I brought you this thesis, just sign it right there, and here's your check.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The case was settled in 2018, so they started discovery and all that stuff around 2016, 2017, and they settled it in 2018. And then it took another 8 years, 2025, for the scientific community to say, hey, this study's not valid based on these reasons. These other 4 studies that they didn't counteract, that were there before them, these emails, internal emails that it looks like these people co-authored, but they weren't mentioned as co-authors. And then these people got paid by the company to conduct this study. Okay. Now, all of that to say, there's future legislation on this glyphosate thing, right? Right now, it's April 2026. Right now, the Supreme Court is in session and they're hearing a bunch of cases. But one of the cases that they're hearing is Bayer versus Durnell, I believe it is. Yes, that is correct. Bayer versus Durnell. Now, the crux of the matter is labeling. There are people like us that want Bayer and all these pesticide makers to label their stuff as a cancer risk.
Yep.
Basically the same warning label that goes on cigarettes and alcohol and all this other stuff to go on Roundup and similar materials. That's it.
Yep.
They're not, for up to me, we should shut down the glyphosate factories and figure out a better way to freaking pesticide and herbicide our stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because there are more holistic, natural options. But that's not what we're asking for. They're asking, put a warning label on the product. And if somebody gets sick from it, you're getting sued. You're liable. Guess what that would do? That would force these people to make a better product.
Yeah.
Right? Now.
Well, but if they put warning labels on it and then people still get sick, then it's on the person for choosing to consume. Because people don't sue Marlboro for Marlboro. Yeah.
So what you just pointed out is what makes this even more insidious.
Yeah.
It's what makes this even more nefarious. Because if you put a warning label and I still use glyphosate, then it's on me now, right?
Yeah.
But they're fighting this tooth and nail.
Yeah.
So, right, there's really no reason to fight a warning. They're not telling you can't make the product anymore. You know, it's just put a warning label on it. Keep making your stupid cigarettes and your stupid whatever, your stupid glyphosate Roundup stuff. Just put a warning label on it. You know, there's people that are going to buy it anyway because it works so well, quote unquote. But you might have a drop in sales and people might be like, yeah, I'm not touching that stuff anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the labeling thing, this is what's happening. This Durnell versus Monsanto or Bayer thing. This guy is out of Missouri. He filed a lawsuit against the makers of glyphosate because he too got cancer.
What was he?
He's a farmer, I think.
Farmer?
Yeah.
Okay.
He too got cancer, and they gave him $1.25 million, which is nothing. Nothing. No. That's nothing for this company. That's pennies. Look at the other guy, $289 million settlement. This guy got 1.25. That's nothing, especially if you have cancer, terminally ill, you'll run through that money, right? But whatever. So he files in Missouri. Missouri awards him a win, right? Yep, this gave you cancer. Now, Bayer filed a petition because their thing was they wanted to retract that settlement because the EPA gave them the good to go. EPA says we're good based on this study that we submitted. Why are you awarding him a settlement? You know? So then that put it into appeals court, and they basically took it all the way to the Supreme Court. Now, here's why this case is important. If the Supreme Court sides with Bayer, you're basically giving liability protection to the makers of glyphosate, to Bayer, because all these other lawsuits, there's thousands of lawsuits pending against this company for the glyphosate.
They won't hold up anymore.
They won't hold up anymore because the Supreme Court will basically say, no, this product is protected. At the federal level, it has already been tested. It has already been deemed safe. So we can't have states legislating against the product.
Yeah.
Right? So there's thousands of lawsuits. They're all going to fall by the wayside, and they'll basically be immune of liability for any other products, right? Which in turn, that means that this company won't have to innovate. They won't have to evolve. They can just keep making the same crappy product. Moreover, you could get into a thing where they make it even crappier, but because it's for the same thing, you can't sue them. It's the same product, right? But I just changed some things, okay? If they give it to the guy, Supreme Court sides with the guy, then obviously all these thousands of lawsuits are going to go through. Yes. So Bayer might lose billions of dollars in one fell swoop.
Yep.
Why? Now, you have that in the Supreme Court, and at the same time, you have the Defense Production Act protecting glyphosate.
Can the Supreme Court challenge the Defense Production Act? Could their ruling challenge it, or?
Their ruling could challenge that,
Okay.
but I don't think it's going to change it. But their ruling could. It's gonna be a collision, right?
Okay.
Because you would have the executive and the legislative branch disagreeing on something. But if they side with Bayer, and then but you could see how the DPA could influence this. So in my mind, I'm like, this is very timely that they lobby, massage, work their way into the DPA in February, knowing that in April, they're going to go before the Supreme Court to argue this case. Because they're going to be like, oh, but President, the White House gave us this freaking deal on the DPA because we're essential national security, baby. You can't touch me, And that could influence the Supreme Court. It'd be interesting if the Supreme Court rules for the guy, what that would do with the DPA. That's fireworks. I'd be curious to see what happens there. Right? Now, here's the thing. Where this all came from, I was listening to a podcast, Sean Ryan show, and he had this young man. He's a regenerative farmer out of Iowa. And
he's running for governor?
He's running for governor of Iowa. And this guy went in. I mean, he came off the top rope with the glyphosate and the cancer stuff. And he's using the framework of Iowa as like the battleground for it, right? Like, hey, this is what's happening in Iowa right now. And it's all because of this stuff, right? So put me down a rabbit hole of cancer and glyphosate. So,
well, on the Sean Ryan show, and I've seen this circulating around, they have that photo where they superimpose the highest rates of glyphosate use on top of the highest rates of lymphoma.
Correct.
And it's oddly
1-to-1?
the same.
It's 1-to-1?
Yeah.
So here's something interesting. The most sprayed place, the highest concentration of glyphosate in soil through testing and in water, because remember, if it goes in the soil, it's going to seep into the groundwater, and then eventually it ends up in your rivers and your lakes. Okay?
That you're used to?
Wow. Low-key mad that I didn't say it. These people are too young to know that song. Anyway, so the highest concentration of glyphosate in soil is in Iowa. Why? There's a lot of farming in Iowa, right? Mm-hmm. Corn, soy, marijuana now, like a lot of farming. So
this gets a lot of farming for the production of feed that then goes to feed our livestock, right? And so when you're ready, I have some information on sort of the secondary effects of glyphosate, because you're focusing more on the direct exposure.
Yeah. So most sprayed state, most glyphosate covered state, Iowa. Now Iowa has experienced an exponential rise in cancer. Oh, why are we so sick? Okay. And then if you start putting 2 and 2 together and you see correlations and you see strings, you're like, oh, this kind of, why is there more cancer in this state now over the past couple of years? Oh, and they have the highest amount of a fake chemical in their soil, a shady chemical in their soil. Oh, that has nothing to do with each other. You're just a conspiracy theorist. Okay, keep living like that. Anyway, Kentucky, surprisingly, was the highest rate of cancer, 525 per 100,000. Iowa's up to 503, right? And rising. These are older stats. So by now, as the guy was saying, he's like, it's number one. We're number one in cancer in the country. And guess what states are following Iowa in their rising cancer? Illinois, Nebraska. Sound familiar?
Farmland.
A lot of farmland states, right? Okay. They call it the Corn Belt. So there you go. Corn is sprayed to the wazoos. Wheat sprayed to the wazoos. So, oh man, here's why I care about all this. You don't have a choice on glyphosate, right? You can't opt out of glyphosate.
You can buy, Dan's right, but you can buy glyphosate-free products. There are some products out there that will put the stamp glyphosate-free. And if you remember, we talked about Florida is measuring the amount of glyphosate in bread. So we were looking at like which ones have the highest, which ones have the lowest, and, you know, buy accordingly if able. However, just because something's glyphosate free, because that farm did not use glyphosate in the production of the plant to then make that product, doesn't mean that there's still not glyphosate in it, because...
So a problem they had during the early years of glyphosate usage, right? And you could probably test this in your own home with spraying Roundup. Farms, when you talk about farmland, you could have a regenerative farm right here in this plot. And then a mile down, you have a regular industrial farm. That's usually how it works out with a lot of these regenerative farms. They're close to other farms.
Yeah.
You know, it makes sense. This big ass swath of land is designated as farmland, and we just put a bunch of farms in there, right? And they're all different farms for different stuff, but they're all sharing that space.
And now let's take a quick break. Have you heard about collagen and how amazing it is for your skin, hair, nails, digestion, and joints, but have no clue which one to choose? I've been there. A few years ago, I stumbled upon Bubs Naturals, and let me tell you, I've been hooked ever since. Here's why I swear by them. Bubs Naturals keeps their quality standards sky high from the start to finish. Their collagen blends perfectly in coffee, or really any other beverage you love. Plus, they've got convenient to-go packs so you can stay on track wherever life takes you. And it doesn't stop there. They'll donate 10% of all of their proceeds to charities that support veterans. How awesome is that? Oh, and they've leveled up their electrolytes too. The mixed berry, that's my absolute favorite. It's light, refreshing, and not overly sweet. What sealed the deal for me? Their electrolytes are NSF certified, made right here in the USA, and just like their collagen, every purchase helps give back. So do your body a favor, head to bubnaturals.com and use my code JANE20 at checkout for 20% off every time you order. Tired of looking like you lost a fight with a powdered donut every time you work out? Yeah, I was too. That's why I ditched the messy chalk and switched to Chalkless. Chalkless is a new, clean, residue-free grip enhancer that goes on in seconds and lasts for hours. No clouds, no cleanup, just a rock-solid grip. Whether you're crushing it in the gym, dominating on the pickleball court, or hanging on a rock face like Spider-Man, Chalkless has your back. I even hit my 350-pound deadlift PR at Summer Strong using Chalkless. Locked in, zero slip, total confidence. Ready to level up your grip game? Head over to chalkless.com and use code JaneBrown to snag 10% off your order. And how are they distributing the pesticide or the herbicide?
Yeah, it's sprayed. Some people plain spray it, right? Or these massive like shower things that move down the field.
And I mean, things like wind, runoff, you know, seeping into the soil and then going to the stream, which then goes down and then you irrigate this land. Like, these are all factors that you may not think of where, well, I don't use glyphosate on my farm, but the farm 5 miles up the road does. And then that can still impact your product.
And that is something when Monsanto started using glyphosate, I mean, and we've done an episode on this, and they were selling it to farmers. These farmers would spray their glyphosate here, and 2 farms down, people's crops were dying because the glyphosate was going downwind to the thing. So Monsanto, in all their infinite wisdom, instead of making a better product, which is what pisses me off, they decide to keep their crappy product and get into the business of making seeds. GMOs. That's how GMOs were born. So that they could be resistant to the spraying of their toxic soup, right?
And we all know how that goes when you mess with God's creation.
It blows my mind. And this is where, this is why, like, when you go down these rabbit holes, you only have one answer. There's only one answer that you will reach, one conclusion. People will say it's greed, right? Oh, it's greed, you know, it's for the money, and write it off. Bro, we're talking beyond money now. This is, you are a demon, my boy. You are serving demons. You're probably going to weird islands with weird people with lots of money and doing weird stuff to people that don't deserve it. I don't doubt it. Like, this is crazy to me. Don't change the product, bro. It doesn't work, okay? You're killing crops here. You're killing crops downwind. Why are you going to then say, you know what? I'm just going to make my own seed, my own fruit so that I can spray this crap on this stuff. To what end? To what end?
Then you back people into a corner because here you have to use this herbicide, pesticide, or else your crops will die. But if you use it, your crops are dying. So now here's a seed so you can keep using it, but now your crops won't die. So they've really just
and now your crops are freaking toxic covered with this stuff. This is crazy. This is think about it. Sit there and think about it, right? It's evil. This is evil.
Yeah.
So going back to it, you can't opt out of glyphosate. We all, like I told you, there's that study where urine samples, they said like 96% of the country they're assuming of the population of the testing samples they had glyphosate in it. You're not escaping this. You're buying regenerative. If they're down the street from another farm, they're downwind of glyphosate usage. It's going to end up there. It goes into the water. If they're irrigating with water from the municipality, there's glyphosate in the water because it's seeping into the ground. It's crazy. It's so crazy that I could take this field that was sprayed with glyphosate and then say, you know what, I'm going to convert it to not glyphosate. The stuff that comes after will probably have glyphosate in it.
Yeah.
That's how forever chemical this thing is, right? So it's extremely difficult to opt out of glyphosate. That's why we have to like fight it tooth and nail, right?
Yeah.
Now, you were saying a proof of the fact that this stuff is so pervasive and you can't opt out at it. What were you going to say? You had some.
So a few things. So we talked about on a previous episode how when they genetically modify specifically wheat, they make it so it's more resistant, faster growing. That has coincided with increase in gluten sensitivities, not necessarily celiacs, but just gluten sensitivity because it makes the wheat different, not how we were evolved to tolerate it. And also with glyphosate specifically, I read a study that compared all the literature as of 2020 on glyphosate because, like, is there truly an impact on gut health with glyphosate, or is it just a bunch of, junk out there? So that's what they looked at. And the study did identify there's some limitations. We don't have all the answers yet. I think that's because of neglect of really looking. But just like right off the surface, and it always goes down to, like with other food products, the amount that's allowed in the U.S. is different than the amount that's allowed in other countries. And why is that? I don't understand that.
So this goes back because this was my shoe drop note.
So you do that and then I'll go.
The same company, demonic, weird, Kabbalistic, occultish, crazy, greedy Monsanto / Bayer makes another product for the European market where they can't spray glyphosate and the levels of toxic load allowed are way less than in the US. So you make a better product for other markets. You already have a better product. It's not like I'm asking you to invent something new that it's going to take you 2 years to develop. You already have it.
Yeah.
And you're selling us the crap. You're selling us the toxic one, the most toxic one.
It's the same thing with candy and cereals and things like that.
I don't understand companies that make different products for different markets. That doesn't make sense. One product for all markets brings your margins down. Like, you make more money because your production costs are less.
Well, one answer is that, and this is what I'll get into, it's not the acute effects. It's not like you eat this glyphosate for one meal and you're sick. It's the little drips long term.
Yep.
What
over
happens.
Years and years and years and multiple exposures a day because you took a shower. And boom, there's glyphosate in the water. Exactly. Then you drank water from the tap. Boom, there's glyphosate in there too. Then you had this bread and there's glyphosate in there too. And next thing you know, you got lumps all over your body and you're dying.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
And so the allowed, and I don't understand how they come up with this, but the acceptable daily intake of glyphosate in the U.S.
should be 0.
Is 1.75 milligrams per kilogram of body weight a day. How do we regulate that? Because not all Americans weigh the same. And so I can only get 1.75 mgs per kg of my body weight, and you can only get, what is that?
Yeah.
You know? And how do you control that
And
if it's
you're
in the soil?
a 10-year-old, like what?
Yeah. And so I don't understand, but that's what the acceptable daily intake in the US is 1.75 milligrams per kilogram. In Canada and in Europe, it's 0.3 to 0.5.
Not even, way less than half. That's like a quarter of it.
So like, why? Like, be curious. Why is that an acceptable rate there, but not an acceptable rate here?
You said 0.3 and it's 1.75 here?
Correct.
So it's way less than a quarter. You're talking, oh my God, that is, dear Lord, I didn't even know it was that big a discrepancy.
Yes.
So think about that. They make a product that satisfies that. Now, let's go beyond that. Why are we legislating acceptable levels of poisoning ourselves?
Because then you need medications. Cancer, big bucks.
Oh, no, cancer, that's something, like if we were to eliminate something like this, remember cancer, two things to remember. One, healthcare is the number one swath of the GDP in this country, okay? Healthcare outspends national security. So defense, which there's a lot of money being spent in defense. Healthcare is way more than that. Like the GDP for defense is like 3.5. It maybe goes up to 5%. Healthcare is 11 point.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then here's another thought I just had. Farmers get sick, the land gets unusable. Oh, sorry, we can't farm anymore. So what are we going to use that land for?
3D printed meat, put the factories for fake food in there.
Yeah.
There you go. Or data centers.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Let that sit with you for a second. That 1.75
and then 0.5
to 0.3 to 0.5.
Yeah.
Now.
And Canada, no, we share, like, there's not an ocean between us, like continuation of land, but theirs is better. I would be interested to see what's right along the border. If our glyphosate's like
creeping up there. Well, and then this thing with the Iowa thing, the guy was talking about these bodies of water, these lakes and rivers that have warnings on them. Like you can't touch this water because there's so much runoff in there from all the farms and stuff that the water is now toxic.
And just remember, like glyphosate is one part, right? Something like Roundup, they have other ingredients, other brands, and Roundup will have a proprietary blend. Has this all been tested? How does glyphosate interact with all these other things? Does it make it more potent? Does it cancel it out? I doubt that. Do they cause ill effects in and of themselves? So these things aren't tested because if you've ever looked at labels and you pay attention to the active ingredient, or the active ingredient will be bigger, and then it's like inactive ingredients and it's like a bajillion things really small, right? But just because they're inactive doesn't mean that they're not going to impact you. And if you don't believe me and you are pro pharma and you use pills, tell me why some people can only tolerate certain types of thyroid medication or birth control, specifically women. Because if you like, hey, I'm on a birth control, but my insurance changed to a different brand, the active ingredient's the same, but the inactive ingredients are different. Now I'm responding differently. Now I'm, spotting between my period just because you changed the inactive ingredients. So these things matter. Now, one thing with the glyphosate studies is there has not been a long-term study where they followed people on the effects of glyphosate. Okay. And I'm talking about 20 years. They just, the problem with all the studies on glyphosate is they're limited amount of time, and they use higher doses than we would realistically consume in a day. But that's because they're trying to drive effects to see, because they only have a short amount of time. And they're more often than not doing it in animals, not in humans, for, obvious reasons. And so those are the limitations. Okay. But like I said, we're getting dosed repeatedly day after day. If somebody uses cocaine and like rips a line one time, their nose isn't going to necrose and fall off. But if they do cocaine every single day over the course of many years, their nose is going to fall off. And so we have to look at what's more long-term effects, because it's not like we're all eating food from a farm one time and then we're done. We're done.
Yeah.
You know? And so also with the glyphosate studies, they look at toxicity of direct use, but they never tested secondary means of ingestion and how that affects the gut microbiome. And the gut microbiome is an intricate balance. Okay, there's tons of bacteria in our gut. We eat food, we nourish the good bacteria, and in turn, they give us protection against opportunistic bad bacteria. So it's a little bit of a symbiotic relationship inside our gut, which is really kind of cool. Okay, but they don't take that into consideration. Like most things, they don't. Like one of the things that Achieve the Lifestyle we promote is testing your gut health, because it matters. And a lot of people will be like, "Oh no, that's crunchy. Like that doesn't matter." Okay. Anyway.
Meanwhile, you're having issues digesting food.
Yeah.
You have acid reflux. You're pooping weird. Yeah. Oh yeah, but it doesn't matter. Okay.
And we know our gut health, we've talked about on this podcast before, directly influences our mental health.
Serotonin.
Yes. Our gut health directly influences our immune production. Okay. But if you like having poop butt all the time and burping all the time, then fine, do you.
Being bloated when you eat every time.
Okay. So one of the interesting things that they found with glyphosate is that opportunistic bacteria is traditionally bad bacteria, because they're taking the opportunity and being there when they shouldn't be there. Okay. Opportunistic bacteria is more likely to be resistant to glyphosate, meaning it can live on the food and then you ingest it. Why our commensal bacteria, these are the good guys that I said, we have that relationship with, we feed them, they help protect us. They are susceptible to glyphosate. So glyphosate is more likely to kill the good things we need, but the bad things that can influence us evade glyphosate. Now this, like I said, will disrupt this intricate balance, and downstream effects of disrupting that balance can lead to things like gluten sensitivity, wheat sensitivity, acid reflux, colon cancer, because there's more inflammation, more leaky gut, because our commensals, the good guys that are being killed by glyphosate, they're protective for us. So they help maintain a good gut lining barrier. So you won't have leaky gut, which is the popular thing. They protect against those opportunistic pathogens, so they can help kill them off or not leave space for them. Okay. And they also decrease pro-inflammatory pathways. So a lot of inflammation in the gut can lead to inflammation systemically in our body, especially if you have leaky gut. And so our commensals help decrease that inflammation. And they also the commensals help maintain a good balance of motility, right? If our GI system doesn't move efficiently, we get constipated, bloated. Pooping is a way to detox your body. If you're not pooping every day, you just got the bad stuff the body's trying to get rid of just hanging out. And then if you have a leaky gut, now it's getting out into your body. No, thank you. Or you can be too mobile, meaning diarrhea, reflux, abdominal pain, cramping. Now, unfortunately, if you have this and you go to your PCP or your gastroenterologist, they're not going to say, well, let's look at the balance of your commensals versus opportunistics to maybe see if that's out of whack. No, take some Gas-X. Here's dicyclamine for your abdominal cramping. Here's a proton pump inhibitor for your acid reflux. Here's some Miralax, Colace, Senna for your constipation. So we're just Band-Aid, Band-Aid, Band-Aid when it's our gut microbiome that's out of balance due to a poison that they're spraying on our food that has astronomical amounts allowed in the US compared to other countries. And we wonder why, when I go to Europe, I don't have issues with bloating or diarrhea or constipation.
There's a lot of people that have been arguing that, those celiac, those gluten allergies that everybody seems to have now here are not necessarily gluten. It's allergies to glyphosate, to the stuff that's sprayed on the wheat here.
Yeah.
And that's why you can go, and our wheat is a GMO so that I can withstand the spray of it. So it's a completely different strand of wheat than the one they grow in Europe and all these other places. So there's that part too. But
and specifically with Roundup and the epidemic that we have in the US with obesity, and more and more light is being shown on the fact of certain commensal bacteria being helpful for things like weight loss. On the Power Athlete podcast, that one woman who does the gut testing talks about, I think it's bifida bacteria for longevity, right? So Roundup specifically decreases Bacteroides. It's one type of bacteria. That's good for us in a normal amount, right? You can have too much of it, but if you don't have enough of it, that can make you more susceptible to diabetes, or not, diabetes long-term, but obesity, okay? So, people are like, oh, I am genetically predisposed. I have the obesity gene. We talked about that in last episodes with Jose. Not actually true. But when you eat something that's sprayed with Roundup and you decrease a good bacteria in your gut, and now you have the more likelihood of becoming obese, it's just there. Like we started at the beginning of this episode, there's so much stuff working against us that it can be.
There's a lot of threads, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff. It just this ties to this, that ties to that.
But what I want to note is that it all comes down to quality of our food. And I'm not saying that that's an easy fix, but we have bastardized the quality of the food in the US, whether it's processed foods or foods we grow, to the point where we are driving chronic disease from all of this in our country. Obesity, hypertension, hyperlipidemia, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, mental health disorders.
And we're sitting here scratching our heads like, where's all this coming from? And when you open a door and say, hey, we should probably look at this because there's a lot of correlation to the point that it might be causational, without jumping and saying that's it, people don't even want to look at it. Why? There's a lot of money. I mean, if we check the market value of Bayer, it's probably pretty freaking high.
It's also overwhelming.
They bought Monsanto for $13 billion.
Because I could see where, given everything that we just said, and you're like, well, I want to avoid glyphosate, but it's so pervasive.
That's why I say we can't opt out of it. That's why we should care, right? That's why everybody should be concerned about this.
But I can see a lot of people just being like, oh, well, it is what it is. Can't.
Yeah, you could do that. You could do that. And then if you get sick or somebody you love gets sick, you're going to be angry, right? What I'm trying to say is it doesn't have to be this way.
It's like us genetically modifying our food and then spraying it bad is like food Nephilims.
Oh, no, it's terrible. It's like we're creating Frankenfood, Now, here's the thing. Cancer is a $400 billion a year industry. 400 B a year.
ILLION.
A year. A year. That's a lot of money. So if you, let's say, the light of God shines on people and they decide, you know what, this glyphosate stuff is pretty bad. Let's get rid of it. Because I know this is America, guys. We're the innovators, right? We want to beat ourselves in the chest for coming up with everything that's awesome in this world. We sending rockets to space and catching them again. Whereas before they would just dump into the ocean. Now they go and come back to the base, right? We're AI out the booty. Like you're making images and making movies on AI and all this stuff. You got self-driving cars going around. We're like, yeah, America. You mean to tell me that we can't figure out how to farm without glyphosate?
Or what would happen if we just use the formulations of glyphosate that are used in Canada and Europe and we decrease our load? Would we still be able to produce food the way we are? Because like we said, RFK is like we're so heavily dependent on glyphosate that if we remove it, it will crumble. But at much lower rates, would we correspondingly see lower rates of, cancers, GI disruption, things like that?
And here's the problem. Cancer is $400 billion a year. People, I promise you, I will bet everything that I will ever have in my life that there are people sitting in rooms right now saying How do we make it 500 billion? Instead of saying, we need to make this 200 billion.
Yeah, well,
because that's what would happen if you start taking out these toxic things that we're allowing. And let's go back to the allowance of toxic. Oh, this is a safe level of toxicity for people. How about no toxicity? Because we don't need it. We don't have to be exposed to this stuff. We don't have to. There doesn't need to be lead in our food and cadmium and arsenic and all this stuff. Other than arsenic, which can occur naturally in things like rice, other than what occurs naturally, but lead and cadmium, a lot of this stuff is not natural in our food. It's stuff that we're putting in the environment that now it's quote unquote natural and occurring in the soil. Same thing with this glyphosate stuff. So how about zero? How about we don't say, hey, how much toxic load can we take? Okay, that's what we recommend, right? Yeah. Don't challenge that. But, you know, if something like you were to legislate it, be like, hey, let's use the same stuff that Europe is using. Let's stop bastardizing our wheat and see what happens. And then, you know, cancer incidents are cut in half. Now you just messed around with a $400 billion a year industry and you took some of their money because they have less and less people going in for chemo. They
won't provide a solution unless they can make money off the solution.
Recurring. Yeah.
Yeah, because look at cancer. You can cure cancer. You can live in remission, but chemo. Look at breast cancer. Breast cancer, you have to be on something like tamoxifen for 5+ years. Okay? But I look at it as they won't provide a solution unless they can monetize that solution. Look at things like ivermectin was a solution, but you can't make money off that.
It's super cheap.
Metformin's great for diabetes, but it's super really cheap. Yeah. So here's SGLT2s, here's GLPs, here's insulin, you know, more expensive things, okay? I just was meeting with a drug rep on, they're coming out with new pneumonia vaccines, right? Because the bacteria are smart, which they are, and they can learn how to evade vaccines. And then the old vaccines like Prevnar 13 isn't as impactful now because now there's Prevnar 20 and 21. And so she was saying you cannot, because they used to recommend pneumonia vaccines for 65 and above. Now it's 50 and above. Because, and in my head, I'm thinking like, well, yeah, because we're all getting sicker and we're all getting more immunocompromised and we're all getting these chronic diseases, which then decrease our immunity, which subject us to develop acquiring pneumonia. Excuse me, I can't talk. But she's like, you can't control how people, because I was eating my lunch. She's like, you eat healthy, but you can't control your patients eating healthy. It's America. You're right. I can't control people. But we also don't educate people on eating healthy. We tell them like, eat what you're going to eat. Here's your pill. Okay? And she was saying you can't control people's health, but you can control giving this immunization. I'm like, well, technically you can't force people to take an immunization, but you can recommend it. But that's easier for me to tell you, here's this vaccine you can take. Here's all these benefits. Then let's talk about your diet and alcohol use and lifestyle and sleep and stress management. But she was saying, I can give this vaccine and save people. And I'm just like, this is passive approach to health. I'm not saying that the vaccines didn't.
What does the vaccine come with?
Well, yeah, I know. I'm not going to go into all that, like with the other ingredients and things like that. But the thing is that.
So did you save a life?
If we didn't have things like glyphosate at the levels that they are in our food, would we have less incidences of cancer and diabetes and obesity and things that make us at higher risk for developing infections? Therefore, we wouldn't need to have a ton of money put into vaccines and ever evolving them. Also, if the Roundup is affecting our gut bacteria, do you think it's impacting the bacteria everywhere else in our body, making it more robust and stronger? I would argue yes. What I'm trying to say is that they won't come up with a solution until they can make money off of it. Oh, look, we have this new vaccine, this vaccine. So we're not going to try to find a cure for things like pneumonia, which again, bacteria that can evade, it's hard to find a cure, but like COVID, or We're not going to find a cure for cancer. We're not going to find a cure for diabetes. We're not going to find a cure for these things to make it go away. But we're going to pump out a bunch of stuff to help manage it, give you the illusion of protection.
Yeah, that we're doing something about it.
That we're doing something about it when we're just asking you to spend your money.
So let's go, and we'll start closing up here. 11.9% of the GDP, I believe. It's 11%. I don't know if I have my points right, because now also by household, the expenditure on healthcare has exceeded the expenditure on food. People spend more money on healthcare than they do on food. It's still in the points, like it's 11% for food, 11% for healthcare, but it's like 11.9 to 11.3, right? We did this in a previous episode, a breakdown of the GDP. Healthcare is the number one expenditure in our GDP right now. It's healthcare. I just told you cancer is $400 billion a year. That's one part of healthcare, okay? If we put diabetes, if we put heart disease in there, and then we put all the other chronic illnesses in there, you're talking trillions, talking $1 trillion situation, right? So these charities that purport to be looking for the cure for cancer and whatnot, go look at their expenditures. Go look at their breakdown of what they do with your donations that you pump in there that you think you're doing something good for somebody else when you donate to these huge cancer charities. Maybe 3 cents from every dollar gets down to the actual cause. Everything else is used to freaking hold up this nasty bureaucracy, freaking man, my Puerto Rican's coming out. Opportunistic, these opportunists.
Opportunistic.
Yeah.
Opportunistic.
Yeah, the Puerto Rican came out. These opportunists, the people that are building these charities and making a crap ton of money off your donations, but very cents from every dollar is what's actually getting down to the cause. And the rest of it is being used to pay salaries and overhead and fancy buildings and fancy events. Disgusting. A lot of those charities are tied to the pharmaceutical companies. I'm just going to throw that out there. Okay. So you have all this stuff that makes a crap ton of money. They're giving you the illusion that they're solving it. Never, don't you dare look at root cause type stuff. Okay. Don't you dare question the use of glyphosate in your food. Don't you dare question the chemicals that are going into your little vaccines and stuff. Don't you dare. Matter of fact, let's put liability protection on them. Right. And now, with going back to what we started with this conversation, if this Supreme Court case goes and you combine that with the DPA, glyphosate falls into a liability protection and joins the almighty vaccine in products that don't have to be innovated, don't have to be improved, probably making people sicker, but they're protected. They're protected. You can't do anything about it because it's codified in law that these products are untouchable.
This is going to hurt you and you're going to like it.
Yeah, this is going to hurt you, but you're going to take it and you're going to like it, right? Here's your bread all sprayed up, you know? So, oh man, this is dark. This is crazy. Let's close this out because that's a lot.
Our next episode next week, we're going to talk about tips, but let's just leave you with just a couple things you can do to provide some light.
So,
get your gut tested.
Get your gut tested. I think that's very useful.
Yeah, see where your balance is at. And then could we do things to help promote the good commensals in your gut microbiome to do what they do, and also provide you ways to get rid of those opportunistic guys if they're out of balance?
Here's one that I'll tell you right now. When you go to Lowe's and Home Depot and you got pesky little weeds in your garden you want to get rid of, there's a big old section of Roundup. Right? Big old, I mean, it's huge. There's so much Roundup. There's all these types. I'm like, yo, when I was growing up, it was just one type of Roundup. Now it's like Roundup for this, Roundup for that, Roundup. Don't buy that crap. Don't buy it. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. Don't even walk down the aisle with it. Just be like, no, we ain't putting money in these demons' pockets. Okay? So my recommendation.
Yeah. There are more natural ways for pesticides, and just, you can look them up.
Yeah, like essential oils, vinegar, things like that are pretty good.
I'm not 100% sure on which ones are for which things, so I'm not going to speak on it, but there are more natural. We used to do it, right? There's natural ways that plants evade pesticides in nature. Let's look at nature as an example, and how can we promote that versus, no, I'm going to do it this way. So,
and stop acting like we started farming yesterday when glyphosate was invented and nobody ever farmed before glyphosate became a thing.
yeah.
Stop acting like that.
And so
Farming for thousands of years, and they did it without glyphosate. So please
Dan
stop.
and I eat a whole natural diet for the most part. We don't eat a lot of processed foods. We try to buy good quality products when we can. But we probably still are exposed to glyphosate regularly, right?
I'm sure if we peed, we'd have a decent
but
level.
It's the same thing like with plastics. Like, I have this stainless steel coffee cup, right? But it has a plastic lid, okay? But it's not a whole plastic cup. So just try to decrease your load when you can. If you see it as something that's glyphosate free and you have the ability to purchase it, purchase it. Is it still going to have some glyphosate in it? Sure, but it's going to be less. So we're talking about decreasing our dose where we can, and then also investigating your gut health to see, are things out of balance? Can I promote a better balance so I can fight against, unfortunately, what I have to consume?
Yeah. And listen, there's always a way, right? Like there's a way. Decreasing your toxic load is the way to do it. You have to, because there's so much out there working against you that you have to figure out a way to decrease your toxic load if you want to at least have a fighting chance at avoiding some sort of chronic illness or potentially a terminal illness, right?
Yeah.
Just guys, there's only one. Don't trust these companies, and don't trust the government either. Seriously, RFK, I'm disappointed, bro. I'm disappointed.
Yeah, a lot of people are.
I'm sorely disappointed because he towed the line on this. He said, unfortunately, glyphosate, it's so essential to our farming that we have to protect it. I want to say bad words right now, but I'm not. I'm going to keep it Christian up in here. I'm calling nonsense on that, brother. You know better than that. You've been involved in these lawsuits. You've seen the damages. You've gotten people paid for those damages. Why are you towing the line right now? That's insane. That's crazy. You should have thrown a fit, bro. So whatever.
So if you would like to get your gut health tested, you can visit our website, achievethelifestyle.com, click the button, contact us or work with us, and we can get that process started of setting you up with that. You can DM us on Instagram at Achieve the Lifestyle, or just shoot an email if you're just like, I don't want to go to your website. I'm just going to pull up my Gmail right now, info@achievethelifestyle.com. Shoot us a message.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you're an Instagram type, just hit us with that DM. Yeah, but I didn't say that it go down in the DM.
Okay.
Guys, This was dark.
But the next one's going to be brighter.
Yeah, just, hey, listen, there's hope, right? Here's what I need you to do till the next one, okay? Don't buy Roundup. Screw that. Don't even walk down that aisle. You might want to get your gut tested. Hit us up. Got you. And do not put your trust in man or in governments or wait for some weird political person to come and save you from this nonsense. Okay? You got to trust yourself. And to trust yourself, you got to get edumacated and trust God, right? So trust God, get edumacated with his stuff, with what he ordained, with what he said, this is how your body works. Okay? And stay pharma-free.
Doesn't stop. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the PharmaPhobic podcast. If you found this conversation interesting, which I know you did, make sure to follow us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And also make sure to check us out on Instagram at Achieve the Lifestyle. And if you're interested in pursuing a stronger, healthier, more capable version of yourself, check out our website at achievethelifestyle.com.
The PharmaPhobic podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The views expressed are those of the hosts and guests and do not constitute medical, legal, or professional advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider before making any medical or wellness decisions. While we discuss pharmaceutical, holistic, and alternative health topics, our content is not a substitute for professional medical guidance.